I love this shirt, by the way. It's one of my favorite shirts, which is why I don't wear it a lot.
Oh, you should wear it tons.
I know, right? That should be the effect. Next time I'm going to wear my other shirt that you got me. I'd rather be gaming. I love that shirt, too. And then next time I'll wear another shirt that you got me. Psycho bitch. The one that makes me look muscular.
Oh, yeah, it does. Why
Yeah.
do you look so muscular?
Yeah, I'm really not. It's really deceiving, you know? Got some weak arms. It's really... It doesn't even fill out the art, like the...
Your noodle arms?
Yeah, it doesn't even fill out, like, the space in, like, the arms when I wear, like, long sleeve shirts. Which is what makes it really funny. So I'm gonna work on toning myself up this summer. I have to work out a bit more regularly, which I started. It's good for my health.
It is.
So, hi everyone, and welcome back to Eva. I almost said B5. Welcome back to Evangelion. We are going to cover episodes 5 and 6 today, and they are called Ray 1 and Ray 2.
Pretty much.
Although Ray 1 is called Beyond Her Heart.
Yeah.
Beyond Her Heart. Speaks a lot to her, you know, the capacity for her to feel, even though Misato, no, not Misato, Ritsuka, yeah. Even though Ritsuka says that she's mentally deranged, basically.
Is that what she said, though?
You want the exact quote? Let me find it. Hold on. My memory isn't always so great with, like, things that are verbatim.
Mental instability.
Yeah.
Mental illness, in other words.
Yep. She's the first child for the Eva. No record of her past. Her past has been completely eradicated. And they believe, or at least she believes, that her mental instability was a primary cause of her unit going berserk the first time. And her mind became much more disturbed than they had anticipated. And then she goes on to say something really interesting, right? She says, but could it have been ... No, that can't be.
Uh-huh.
What is that? I mean, I picked up on that and I was wondering, like, what could that be? Like, could it have been what?
And yes, the answer is yes.
So, I get the sense that they put her through something. Not only did they physically delete everything in her past history, but they basically reset her some way. That's the feeling I got. That's terrible. Did they?
My lips are sealed.
Come on, participate just a little more here. I'll wait. I'm patient.
I think you'll find out the answer in the TV series. I'm not sure if they ever tell you, but I will tell you when we're done.
Okay. All right, fair enough. I will wait until the end. But yeah, I definitely get the sense that they had to sort of reprogram her and rewire her brain in order for her to be the first child to be able to pilot the Eva. Now that makes me think, right? Like, I'm having a thought. Shinji wasn't programmed. I mean, he was in his own way by, like, the experiences he went through with his father, but he wasn't programmed per se, but yet, like, his synchronicity level was at, like, a 99.99% with the Eva.
It moved even without a pilot in it to protect
Well,
him,
that's also true. To protect Shinji.
It's not even supposed to be active with no pilot, but it moved on its own.
And that's very curious. Like, now I wonder, was then the unit, Ray's unit, was it forced to sort of synchronize with her? But then when it came to Shinji's unit, like, was his father even more attentive to that? Because it's his own son and because he knows him more? Even though his father is really terrible, I like to think that his father, like, showed some sort of, or had some sort of capacity to like want something, like he had like some attention that he did pay forth to his son, you know, like let's say making the unit something that his son could pilot, like get into and easily synchronize with and navigate. I'd like to think that, but we'll see. I don't know. But that's curious to me, like why is he, you know, why was he I'm stuttering a lot today. Why was
Well,
he able to like really get in there and just everything line up?
well, your first question should be, why did it move without a pilot in it?
Yeah.
Why was everybody so astounded that it moved without a pilot in it? And also, if you think that Nerve made the Evangelions, then why are they so surprised when they do stuff?
See, but that's interesting, but because in this episode we found out that the angel has the same like wave patterns, and I wrote it
DNA
down.
structure.
Yeah, they have the same wave patterns. And the composition and the arrangement of it falls within the 99.89% match of humans.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all curious. This is all sort of fan-based stuff that I really liked this episode. Ray. Where is she? Based on the dialogues that she had and like the interactions she had and how she portrayed herself, I want to say that this is a very tragic character. You see so many elements of her where she's so distanced from people, even while, like, the students say that like they haven't seen her with anyone since like what, 7th grade, that she's always alone. She doesn't have any like interactions with people. And one interaction she does, it's with Gendo, and it's such a positive interaction where she jumps out of her Eva and she looks normal. Like a typical teenager who looks up to someone, and you know, they look forward to having conversations with someone or interacting with someone, and she shows that level of excitement, but only for just that one moment, because his connection to him is so important. It's meaningful to her. But outside of that, she's socially inept, and she doesn't know how to live, according to Ritsuka.
Mm-hmm.
So I find it tragic because outside of that, I don't really know if she knows who she is. But how could she if she was, my guess is she was reprogrammed, but like there's nothing about her that's in her records. Like her complete past has been eradicated. Does that mean also that her past has been like completely like deleted from her memory? Like her parents? Was she genetically engineered? I don't even know. And then you get to that very last scene where... No, I don't want to go there yet. Hold on. So, and then her interactions like twice with Shinji, all of her interactions with Shinji are basically really cold and distanced. It's very neutral. It's neutral.
Except for...
It's neutral. And she, at both times, she says, you know, as they both depart, as she like departs ways with him, she says sayonara. And it's like so finite. And she has no problem just uttering those words and making things like really final. And like endings for her don't seem to have much weight. It doesn't weigh on her. She can easily have something end and it's okay. And then it was so telling when she has this conversation with Shinji. And Shinji asks her, why do you pilot the Eva? That was the question, right?
When? You mean as they're on the escalator?
No. As they're sitting on the mountain.
Oh, towards the end.
Towards the end.
Oh, okay. I thought, what about the escalator?
Wait, I'm gonna get there.
Oh, shit, okay.
He asks, why do you pilot that unit? And she says, because I'm bonded to it. It's a bond. But not only to the Eva, to everyone. So just as distanced as she is with everyone around her, she's bonded to, she still feels like that's a connection that she has. And that's valuable to her. Shinji says, you're very strong, but she says, I have nothing else. And that broke my heart because when you decide to do something, there are reasons why you decide to do something. Your intentions, your reasons, the meaning behind it. For her to pilot the Eva had nothing to do with anything else, but just it didn't have anything to do with strength. It had everything to do with how she didn't have anything else anyway. And therefore this is the only thing that gives her meaning.
I think the word you mean is purpose.
Purpose. Purpose is a better purpose. Purpose for her existence. Purpose is definitely a better word. But that's not strength. It's because there's no other connection to anything else. There are so many things that, it's kind of hard to just sort of organize Eva, that I find, because the complexities of all these themes that continue to come up is it kind of can be separate compartments, but then they're all are interconnected and interweaved, and you have to be able to sort of see it as a whole picture, because when you just separate one element out of it, you're not getting the full picture. And that's what I find I'm having a hard time articulating. So with regards to Rei, let me just complete this thought. I see her as this extremely tragic character. I mean, when Shinji goes to her apartment, and her apartment, it's just her bloody bandages everywhere. The house looks like it needs to be cleaned. There's no sunlight. Everything's dingy. And the only thing that's kind of showcase that has any meaning for her is Gendo's glasses that she picked up that day when she was saved by him. And she fondly remembers this memory with such positivity, and it gives her it puts this huge smile on her face, and that's the only thing that's put this huge smile on her face. So her connection to him, is definitely there, and it's important. But I find it really sad because, as much as Gendo can reciprocate it in that one moment that we saw, and yeah, I think that there's this sort of, he may have his own way of caring for her, but at the same time, in the beginning episodes, he had no problem having her go back into the Eva after she got mauled the first time. And it makes me really sad because it's I know, I can see how Gendo cares about her, but how much of it is genuine and how much of it is because he needs her? But I do think that the connection there looked genuine to me, but that's all she gets. But we'll see though, because I think that her relationship with Shinji is going to blossom a bit more. especially after this last episode. Like I said before, Shinji is who I really like connect with. Now, the thing that I really like, that really like stood out to me and that I had like this visceral reaction to, was his interaction with Rei while they're on the escalator. He asks her about the reactivation test and whether or not she's scared. I mean, the first time around, what happened to her? My God, she was in the hospital, right? And she was all bloodied up and it was really bad. And you would think that after an experience like that, you would have some trauma and you wouldn't want to go back in there because it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt. He asks her this question, and the next question that she asks him back is, do you have faith in your father's work? And now this is coming from a place of her really like having these, I would even say like these feelings of affection and love towards Gendo. So of course she's going to ask him this way. And his response is, of course not. I could never trust him. And she turns around and just slaps him in the face. The reason why this scene resonated with me was because of my own experiences. Growing up, you know, in the Korean community where I had like, you know, a few Korean like people in my life, people who I worked for. I had a Korean neighbor next door. I had like just, you know, people I've known throughout. What I've noticed was anytime I had told them about how much I did not like my father, and in fact, you know, during my earlier years, how much I hated him, their response was always, you shouldn't say that about your father. Don't talk like that about your father. After all, he's raised you, or he's raising you. No matter what, he's still your father. And anytime I heard those words from anyone, it was always this metaphorical slap for me. They have no idea what my experiences are. They have no idea what goes behind that closed apartment door. They have no idea what it's like when your drunk father comes and picks you up from school and drives down the road like swerving all over the place, and you get into these near accidents. They have no idea. And yet, they felt like they could say this to me with such authority because it's rooted in culture, because you're not supposed to disrespect your elders, because you're supposed to respect your parent, and because you're supposed to assume that just because he's a parent, he's raising you. When Rei slapped Shinji, the only thing I could think of was this. Rei can only see Gendo in her own light. And for someone who is so disconnected from anything else, I don't think that she really would have been able to see Shinji's point of view. But then, if that's the case, then all these people who said the same things to me, were they only saying it from their own point of view? Because they themselves were their parents? Because they themselves knew that they weren't perfect? Because they themselves wanted to be afforded this kind of grace or benefit of the doubt? Rei's reaction is a projection of her own feelings. And Shinji, that's not his experience at all. They're on two polar opposites. Here is Rei, who's been accepted. Here's Rei, who's been saved by Gendo in that like really hot capsule. And then here's Shinji, who was abandoned as a child, thrown away and just like tossed. And here's Shinji, who, you know, wasn't saved by Gendo. I mean, even after the first experience of him getting into Eva and like ending up in the hospital, he never came and visited him. Never even asked about how he was doing. They have these two complete opposite experiences. In my situation, I had my own experience, and everyone else had their own ideals. I want to say that those moments when I had those conversations with people, especially when I tried to like open up and I wanted to talk about my feelings, it turned bad, because then it turned into these negative experiences of being invalidated. It turned into then me second guessing myself. I mean, as a young child, what other frame of reference do I have in understanding my experiences? Especially if, especially since I lived in such a, sheltered kind of life. And there was a lot of outside resources. I ended up second guessing whether or not like how I felt about my home life was as bad as it should be. And I remember there are times where I just kind of got used to it, and then I minimized the extent of like, I guess, the damage that was happening. But you end up doing that because, it is happening every day. So a part of you wants to get desensitized, but also you begin to dissociate. I began to dissociate with some of those things, or I just started like not paying attention anymore. But then when other people tell you, well, it's not that bad, or your father's still raising you, it's like, this is how you raise kids? This is how you grow up in a family? I could only imagine what Shinji felt when he was like slapped. I mean, like the look on his face was just sheer like, I mean, he was shocked. Yeah. Despite that though, he continues to talk about his feelings and try to like engage in conversation. Like even before they go out, him and Ava are getting suited up, right?
I mean, Ray.
I'm sorry. Him and Ray are getting suited up to go out. And he opens up this conversation, like, are you scared? Did he say, are you scared? But he opens up this conversation. But he's constantly just trying to talk about his feelings. Generally, I find that people who try to talk about their feelings and what they're thinking as well, they're definitely people who are much more in tune with who they are, as opposed to Ray, who is completely like shut off. Like she can't even really, I don't think that she could even put herself in someone else's shoes. Her life is just her own, and she's very egocentric that way.
He kind of
No, let me tell you.
Just like, okay.
When she walked in that hospital,
your meal. Like she's just...
the way she was like looking down at him, did you notice? Like she's like looking down, and that look was so menacing.
Ray doesn't have any menace.
No, that was menacing. I mean, like if I was Shinji looking at her like from the hospital bed like this, like, and like she's like, and like her pupils are on the bottom of her eyes.
I think that's just the bad.
No, that was menacing, okay? But it just spoke to her level of just like this coldness, right? This distance. Like she's just so, I understand it's neutral, but that was menacing to me. Like, look, Shinji just got up after like the lifeline said, okay, dee! Like he passed it. He's like, all right, and people are like, time to go. You're ready to go. He just woke up. My God, wake him up. Let's go. And Ray is there. That was menacing. But that conversation is another one of those things where it was so hurtful to watch. And I had to I try to pull this apart, right? So she's like, we're going to be departing in 60 minutes and I'm here to debrief you. This is what we're going to do. And here's your meal. Your meal. And he's trying to just have a conversation because he's always trying to process his feelings, but he's always trying to look for something that he can hold on to in order to move forward. Mm-hmm. I mean, for Ray, it's enough that she's bonded and this is the connection that she feels like she has to everyone because she has nothing else to lose. Or she has nothing else if it wasn't for this. For Shinji, he certainly has a sense of self-preservation, but for him it's like, well, what's it worth? Who would he even do it for? His father doesn't even care if he's alive or dead at this point. Mm-hmm. And he's just trying to talk to her. He just says, I don't want to go. Maybe you can be so calm about it because you haven't experienced the scary situations I've gone through yet. I mean, in her own right, she did get really brutally destroyed the first time she even just stepped foot in Eva. Mm-hmm. But it's not as if she was in, part of actual combat either. Mm-hmm. Although I think, to be honest, I think she would just take it equally fine because there's really... Mm-hmm. But this is what he says. But he's so connected, though, to his thoughts. He's so connected to the situation and his feelings. And he just says, I don't want to go through it again. Relatable, understandable. I'd be scared to death to get back into an Eva after I've been, blown up. As soon as, I got there, I just got shot through with, some laser beam. He didn't even have a chance. Misato's like, Dodge, what do you mean? It's piercing through me. It's already going through his suit. What do you mean, Dodge? And then Ray says to him, then you can stay in bed. And he's like, what do you mean? And she's like, I'll pilot Unit 01. That feels bad. That feels really bad. To sum up that feeling, it's the conversation's extremely logical, right? Well, if you don't want to do it, don't do it. But the moment she says that, though, well, I'll pilot 01, it diminishes his importance. He has no value. Well, then... if you don't want to do it, then don't do it. I'll do it. It's not like we needed you anyway, right? You get that feeling from that kind of conversation. But that's not the point, though. I'm not telling, Shinji's, I didn't have this conversation with Ray, but Shinji's not having this conversation with Ray because he's ultimately not wanting to pilot it. He's having this because he's trying to process his feelings. He's trying to find something to get him going. Some reason for him to keep going in the direction that he's trying to go. And that's important to him. But then she just diminishes his importance just like that in just one sentence. I understand Ray, though, which is why I can't really be that angry with her. And I'm going to say I think Shinji also understands Ray as well, because after all these dialogues that he continues to have with her, In the end, when he goes to save Ray, he's crying. He's in tears because why? I mean, I can only guess that, like, you know, one, that she wasn't seriously hurt. Why is he in tears? She protected him. Despite all these experiences that he's had with her, that wasn't always so great, including that slap. In the end, she still protected him. And that was so meaningful to him, considering, you know, how his worldview is set up in his mind based on his experiences. I love the moment where Ray said, hold on. I want to get this right. I love the moment when Ray said, I'm sorry, I don't know what to do or feel at a time like this. And Shinji just simply says, why don't you try smiling? And that's all he wanted. And that was such an incredibly mature response. But this is like the first time Ray's actually like a bit more in tune with herself. And she's expressing that. And it was like, oh my God, this is gonna, I hope this goes somewhere positive, right? Because that's where the scene ends. That was so beautiful to see unfold, because in those 2 episodes, 5 and 6, all throughout, you just see Ray being like menacing, right? To me, she was menacing. And cold and distant. Look, that look was really menacing. You need to revisit this. Like, she's just sort of like, she's really distanced from everything. She's objective, she's neutral, she's logical. Her conversations are just basically A plus B equals C. That's it. I get that. I absolutely understand that. So in terms of that, like the stoicism that you get out of Ray is absolutely appealing. You don't get any like, you don't get any like mind games out of her. She is exactly who she is. There's no drama. She's straightforward. And in that, I want to say she's probably every, like, you know, fanboy's best girlfriend. She doesn't complain. And she even clarifies it. So, you know, when they're about to like launch and go out and do their thing, she's like, so my job is just to protect Shinji, right? And they're like, yes. And she's like, okay. Nothing else. She understood that very clearly. And man, did she deliver on her promise. That was incredible. She was there, steadfast, with that, you know, that 17-second shield in place.
Mm-hmm.
And that was incredibly honorable. It was, as a warrior, it was such a beautiful thing to see. Honestly, that like, that definitely touches you. I like Ray. I'll put that out there. I do like Ray. I just feel very sorry for her, but I know that she probably doesn't need to be sorry to have sorry felt for her. She's not looking for pity. I just feel sorry for her only because, you know, people like Ray can be easily exploited. If not already. And like these sense of connections that she has, it makes me feel sad because I can't tell how much of that is genuine. But then the fact that she only feels these connections in these little moments, and only with Gendo, the other person who's so socially inept, right? That's tragic. That's sad. And I would like to see more for her. But we'll see. I liked when the boys were talking about like teasing Shinji, and they were like, "What are you looking at? Are you looking at her boobs, her butt, her calves?
Calves. I love his calves.
She's got some sexy calves." That reminds me, I have to go back and talk about something. There's another third one that I want to talk about.
Okay.
That was a media therapy thing. Okay. Another favorite episode, moment. Pen. He has his own beer. He eats
Curry.
Misato's curry, which she made bad, even though it's already pre-made. He takes a bite and he just goes offline. Okay. Another scene that I liked. Oh my god, did I love this one. When they're reporting to Misato and they're like, the type 12 mortar has been vaporized. And Misato, her like mouth goes up a little bit. She's just like, what is that look? It's like she's just dumbfounded, right? Like,
Yeah. Oh my fucking god.
she's like, naruhodo.
That's a great look.
I love that. I had to rewind that a couple of times and rewatched it. Oh my god, that cracked me up so much. I loved it. This was another one of those moments where I thought about it and I was like, oh my god, this is something that's affected me too. So Shinji's not very, in some ways Shinji's not typical, right? Like when the boys were teasing him and they're like, oh, what are you looking at? You're looking at Ray's, body parts? And they're just teasing him. And he's like, no, I'm just wondering, like, why is she always alone? So there's that moment. And then the second moment where, like, Misato and Ritsuka, they're, like, teasing Shinji, like, about Shinji's, like, looking at the card and, like, staring at Ray's picture, even though he was, like, really reminiscing. Or he was, like, thinking about something. I'm drawing a blank. What was he thinking about when he was, like, looking at the card?
I think he was just like, I don't understand how I don't know this person. Like,
oh, yes,
yeah.
right. That's what he said. Like, I'm looking at her card, but I realize I don't really know who she is. Is that what he says?
Mm-hmm. Something like that.
These are both situations where people assume what he's thinking. And they assume that, like, in some ways, like, he's really typical. And I love that there were these two poignant moments in this anime where it's proven wrong, that what they're thinking, that he's thinking, is incorrect. This happens a lot in my own personal life, where people assume that I'm thinking or feeling something, and because it's within the range of what they would be thinking of or what they think is typical, right? They come to this erroneous conclusion. And then I tell them, no, that's not what's happening, because I'm not always, thinking in these sort of like typical thought processes. And I don't know what my feeling is about that. I guess it's one of those things where it's like, it's a little irritating that people would assume that you would think exactly like the next person. And that's one of those other assumptions and communication processes that about people, that when people have, it gets a little frustrating because, some people are pretty complex, and like I don't really like the idea of that people would assume that you're thinking something and then they're so set on like that being true too, because they would be thinking of it that way. So I like that this anime showcased that, no, Shinji has more depth than that. It's not so superficial. So I like that was pointed out in this anime. In this, I think that's important. And speaking of Hideki, there was something where I wrote this down. I didn't write who wrote this, but I don't know if it was Misato who said it. I'm not really sure, but someone said never underestimate the ability of the human animal to adapt to its environment.
Misato. When she was drunk. When Mitsuki was like that Shinji is living with her, and she's like, I can't believe, it's like, don't let one bad roommate ruin your experience, and he's just like, whatever, it's fine.
This is Hideki's line, isn't it?
I feel like it is, yeah.
Never underestimate the ability of the human animal to adapt to his environment.
He wrote it, so it's his words.
And I just thought, this is probably what Hideki either believed or wanted to believe. And I wonder how much of it was his mantra. You can adapt to your environment. Stop struggling, just
learn
to accept. Learn to accept. Don't get too caught up in things. Don't obsess and move forward. Just keep adapting.
It's a very Japanese framework of thought. You don't want to stand out. You don't want to seem different. You want to make sure you blend in as much as possible.
But, as humans, we are supposed to be very adaptable creatures. But he is not.
No.
And that's why this is, this stood out for me. Well, I had tons of fun watching these 2 episodes. It was quite something. But there was a lot of these like really fun moments in it, which I really liked. So, oh my god, I laughed a lot. It was good. All right, as always, thank you everyone for watching and tuning in and being interested. If you have any questions, feel free to email in your comments or questions, thoughts, and I'll see you again next time. Have a good one. Bye.